Okay, so how does the university decide what is important to fund?
Well, this is actually a really interesting question, and we could spend a lot of time on this because, we have, I'll have to tell you, we, as a university here, we have, as Bernie said, 20,000 students, about 21,000 students. We have 1,000 full-time faculty members. If you add on the part-timers, that works out to about 1,200 equivalent, full-time equivalent faculty members, distributed among 7 academic colleges, and we'll have an 8th academic college next year. In approximately, there's 48 academic departments distributed in those colleges, offering on the order of 200 undergraduate degrees and programs and 100 graduate programs. And every one of them is different, okay? So when we make a decision about what do we do new, as an example, let's take the College of Health. That was like a 3 or 4 year planning process where we look at creating a new college. There's expenses associated with that, but we think those expenses can be paid for by the increased efficiencies and enrollments that we would see with co-locating those similar programs, like was happened in the past when we created the College of Communication, Information, and Media, for example, or the College of Fine Arts, or the College of Architecture and Planning. Those were decisions that have budgetary implications to them. Another example of adding a new program specifically is a program that's upstairs here is in Teachers College, a graduate program in applied behavioral analysis. And in that case, we did a very formal budget analysis of how much would it cost us to deliver a master's program online by hiring new faculty members, and how much revenue would we generate through tuition. And so we built that model, hired an appropriate number of people that we thought if we could break even at something like 150 enrollment in that master's program. Currently, the enrollment in that master's program is well over 1,000. And so that's an example of how a business-like decision was made for adding a new program. It's a little bit harder when you want to eliminate a program. And we have eliminated some programs over the last few years. Those decisions tend to be driven by lack of enrollment, very few students left. We've closed some programs and taught out the students until they graduated. So those kind of decisions are purely, not purely, but they're driven by the academic needs, but the way we implement them is driven by the business part of it. There are other decisions we make that are based not on business decisions, things that are just absolutely necessary to do, like, for example, changes in Title IX, restrictions on the university. We had to hire new staff to do those things. We just could not continue without hiring new people. So there's some regulatory things that cause us to do certain things as well. Anything to add to that?
Well, I just add just from a higher level, we are what you call a very fixed cost industry. So as Terry's spot on, about 70 cents on the dollar that we spend goes to a person on this campus, whether it's a faculty member or a groundskeeper or a food service worker or whatever it is. And so when most of your money is tied up in people, if you're going to change money, you have to change people. A lot of our faculty, of course, are tenured and difficult to move if you wanted to. A lot of our services are fixed. We have to do our financial report. We have to get payroll out. We have to mow the lawn. So these things are difficult to change. And so with a fixed cost model, you sort of try and do things incrementally, because you can't just come in and wipe out half of your staff overnight. It's just literally impossible. So you have to reallocate money. And Ball State has been pretty good. It's actually harder to reallocate money than it is just to cut money. Because I'm taking money from you, I'm giving it to you, and that's a hard thing to do. But we reallocated over $40 million in the last few years trying to get money to those more strategic things that Terry's talking about. And that's really the way that we're able to sort of identify something different that might be more important than we're doing now.
I have to give you an example, if you don't mind, just to, again, I like mathematical modeling, it's kind of my background, but if we talk about changes in enrollment, and 100 students, roughly on average, 100 new students to the university would generate how much more?
About $1 million.
About $1 million more in revenue. So 100 less students to the university is about $1 million less. Now, typically, if you have 100 new freshmen, they're going into the freshman courses. And so, for example, all of you took English, I assume. Sections typically at 20 to 25 students. If you have 100 new students, you have 4 or 5 new sections. And we can hire people to teach those 4 or 5 new sections. And that's pretty easy to do with fluctuating enrollments. The real difficulty is all those students move into their upper level courses, and I said there are 200 academic programs at the university. So when your accounting class has normally 35 students in it and you have 2 students less, you can't get rid of the faculty member. They're still teaching the course. They can accommodate 2 to 5 more students easily in that class as well. And so that's part of the inflexibility of the funding of higher education when you look at it that way.